All right, green mic's hot. Check, check. All right, I think we're good.
Is the mic working? Okay, great. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So if everybody, we're passing in a sign-in sheet around. If you haven't gotten the sign-in sheet, oh, it looks like people are passing it over there. Yeah, make sure you sign your name, and then online, we'll be sending in a voting form at the end as well. So. All right. So welcome to the December 12th semi-annual congregational meeting. This is our meeting that we have twice a year unless we have a special election. So if you want to go to the next slide. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to try to make this as quick as possible so you can kind of get on to your lives on Sunday. But we're going to start out with a look back of 2021. We're going to have an executive committee update. We're going to have a little bit of an update on the outreach endowment grants. And then we're going to follow up with a social justice and community ministries. We'll have a budget update, capital fund update, and then we'll have instructions for voting. So obviously, and then we'll have a Q&A afterwards if there's any questions, et cetera, for follow-up. So make sure we're passing up the sign-in sheet all throughout. So just make sure you sign up before you leave today because it's important that we have enough people for quorum. So if you move to the next slide. So 2021, if we look back, it's been a challenging year. Certainly, we've been introduced with challenges within our church of having to manage COVID-19. And then also, we had the ice apocalypse as well. So this has probably been one of the more challenging years that I've exhibited, and I think our church has had to go through that too, and they've done a really good job. I think we've done a really good job trying to go through some of the challenges that we have. And if you go to the next slide. We've had an evolution of how we've done our worship as well. And on March 15th, 2020, that was our last live service. And the title of the sermon was Interdependence in the Time of COVID. And I don't know if we actually knew what was going to come up after that. But in March, in that next service, we started doing Zoom. And then in June, we started doing the YouTube premiere where we kind of edited videos and we offered some sort of YouTube premiere. And then starting of this year in September, we did YouTube Live plus an outside service. And as things started to ease up in terms of COVID as well, we finally did YouTube Live plus inside in person as well. And I think we're going to continue to evolve within this church. And as Reverend Joanna always says, we're in beta, right? And so I think we've done a good job adapting to the challenges that we've had over the years. So I think that's something to celebrate. And if you move to the next slide, we've had a lot of fun along the way as well. And these are kind of some examples that we've had. And I'm not going to go through the examples, but I think this has been an enriching experience. So even though we've had our challenges over the past year, I think we've had a lot of fun along the way and a lot of fellowship as well. And if you move to the next slide, and we'll be talking about this as well. And we've done a lot also, and we've done an amazing job in terms of outreach, social justice, and also, we're still good on the power? Okay. I was a little worried. So, not that cold. Yeah, I know. So I think we've done a really good job, coming out to the community, especially during the ice apocalypse. We handed out water to people in the community, and I really appreciated that because I was in Leander, and I was flushing my toilet with snow. We had Reverend Joanna going out there to one of our school board meetings talking about books and the importance of books, and we had the Poor People's March as well. So we've had a lot of activities going on, and I think we've done a lot of great things as part of our church. So if you move to the next slide. We've actually had new board members over the years as well, and I'm included as one of the newbies on the board. I started up, I think in September, I started up, and mainly because, you know, our Amy was moving to North Carolina, so we've kind of taken that on. And then also Karen is our trustee, and Julia is another one of our trustees as well. And then we have Liz as well, who's taken on treasurer. Thank goodness, she's done a really good job with that as well. So thank you everybody who's kind of taken on the new board member positions as well. And if you move to the next slide, and again, I did this for Reverend Joanna. Although I love Doctor Who, and actually the new Flux is awesome, by the way. But moving forward, you know, we're always in beta, and we're always going to be changing and adapting. We're going to continually and safely continue our fellowship, and I think things are, you know, as the pandemic hopefully starts to subside, hopefully, we'll continue to advance our fellowship, and I think that's going to be really important. We're going to continue to enhance our worship, including the multi-platform experience. And I think people have really still appreciated the multi-platform, and we're going to probably still continue that even beyond the pandemic as well. And we'll continue to grow as a congregation. I think one of the important things that we need to do, especially as things start to subside with the pandemic, is we need to continue to, you know, grow our congregation and have more people, you know, get involved with our congregation as well, and experience all the great things that we experience as a church as well. And I want to let you know as well, as we move forward, we're planning on updating our mission. I think one of the things that we were focused on is just surviving as a church, I think, over this last year. And I think we've survived, and I think we've thrived. But I think moving forward, we need to have some future planning. What are we going to do as a church moving forward? And what is our vision moving forward as well? So just lastly, if you move to the next slide, a big thank you. Is Rebecca and Carrie here? Oh, there they are. Big, huge thank you as they kind of transition, you know, to the next stage of their life as well. But they've been an instrumental part of Live Oak over these years, and you know, they've been such an important part of us. And it's, you know, it's bittersweet because it's, you know, really sad to see them go. But you know, we also want them to, you know, whether or not it's retirement or Carrie's going on to 100% grandmaship, if that's and so I think you know, we should just celebrate them. And one thing that Reverend Joanna was telling me is that, you know, the retirements, etc., are going to be, you know, moving on in January and February. We're going to have some celebrations. And she asked me to reach out to her if you want to help participate in some of those celebrations moving forward. So with that said, I'm going to transition to the next part, which is, I believe the next slide is the executive committee. Now, I know that this slide is really small, but we have an online link, and Reverend Joanna is handing out copies as well. So.
Yes, speaking of vision, we're all going to test your vision right now. No, that's just to let you know what I'm passing out. We also have a link that is, this is posted on our website, and so it's going out to those who are at home. This isn't so much an update as a letting you know what's been, you know, going on for quite a while, because it seems like one of the sources of confusion that we sometimes have is, so what exactly is the executive committee, and who are they, and what do they do? So This is, what you're holding right here is simply us trying to put this into a visual form. It's not perfect. There's nothing that is perfect that I have found, at least not with the church. We've tried to break things down into what is a ministry, what is a team, what is a sub-team of a team, and what is a program. And again, this is just our attempt to put this into a visual form. Sometimes it can be kind of, you know, confusing about, okay, what do we determine is a program? When does it become a sub-team? What we're kind of operating on, especially in terms of social justice, is that we may have something that begins as a program, and then once we have the cohesive team that's supporting that, then it's actually a sub-team. Anyway, just wanted to share that with you so that you can visually see a little bit about what it is that we do. Overall, for the governance of the church, executive team isn't part of the governance per se. That is your board. They are the ones who decide policy. The executive committee is the one that is in charge of operations. So like if the board comes up with a policy, then it comes to the executive committee and we say, okay, how are we going to put this into effect? What are the teams and the sub-teams that this is going to affect? Anyway, there you go. Just wanted to put that out there, and I hope that that makes things a little bit more clear for you.
Thank you, Reverend Joanna. So we're going to transition to the Live Oak Endowment, and John.
Hello, I'm going to be telling you about something I think is exciting. Started in 2006. I wanted to give you a little brief history first, for those who know or don't know. The endowment was set up at the time that the church was gifted to us, basically. What happened was Live Oak owned an office building up 620, a couple blocks, and we had a very generous member who donated land, thinking that maybe we would build on the land. Of course, it was adjacent to a church that became a mega church, and they desperately needed the land. So our gift from this member was converted by this mega church. They acquired this building and traded the land for this building. Therefore, we ended up with a home generously donated to us, and the money that we made from the building, over $600,000, was divided between two things. The church, we knew that we were moving into a building much bigger than we could immediately grow into. The church received $300,000, and the remainder was put into an endowment, and the intention was people were so generous to this person was so generous to us, we would be generous to Unitarian congregations and organizations that have the same principles that we have. And the money that is given as grants comes out of something we call it available funds. The initial money that was put in grows with inflation. Anything above that can then be used for grants. Let me tell you, I'd like to recognize the members, it's not just me, obviously. Cindy LaGreca, Catherine Enyart, Andrew Tucker, Wayne McCullough, Mark E. Anderson. It's always hard having two Mark Andersons, but Mark E. Anderson, and of course me. That's 6 people. The bylaws say minimum of 5, maximum of 7. So if you're intrigued by what you hear here in this discussion, there is an opening for you potentially. This next slide gives you an idea of what we go through. we request grant proposals, which we vet, and we've come up with criteria. For example, sustainability. We will not fund salaries, but more programs. And the thing that we like to see is people first and the money following. It's an important principle. So we may fund a congregation passing through to an operation. You're going to see that in this year's grants. The next slide. This is pretty impressive. As I say, we started in 2006, but at that time, we had no available funds. We had to grow the investment over and above inflation. So since then, through the grants this year, 32 grants, almost $190,000. And so, as I said, I said before, this is passing along the generosity of a member that we were given. We now, as a congregation, all the Live Oak members, are passing along this generosity that we were fortunate enough to receive. The next slide. It's kind of small. This is a grant that we gave several years ago for outdoor space, and they put a plaque in this area, garden area for outside classrooms, recognizing Live Oak UU Church. So we are recognized for the good that we do. Let's see. Next slide. I was told that I couldn't talk for a whole hour, that I had to cut it down to 10 minutes. So that's why I need to go back. This is a more recent slide. This is a project that was started during COVID, so they really had a lot of delays and all that. But this person, Rachel, was so responsive. It seemed like every month she would tell us the progress or lack thereof. But they converted a storage area into a handicap accessible bathroom. And this one's in California. Let's see, handicap accessible, gender neutral bathroom. So kind of exciting. Now the next slide shows what happened was we always request grants, and it really is no specific cycle. Historically, we have one, but we could be doing this anytime. We put out a request, got 8 grant proposals, and selected 4. As I say, it's an important vetting process because we want to make sure that your money, our money, is well spent. First one, Reading Seeds, is congregation members working with underprivileged children to improve their reading skills through tutoring and gifts of books. So our grant is buying books to supplement their program. The next one, Georgia Mountains, this is an interesting one. It's a congregation, northern Georgia, very rural, and they have built a new building, new church building, but during COVID, they were doing just what we're doing with the hybrid services, the remote, and they've attracted a lot of people. And remember, this is a remote area, it's hard to get to. They really want to continue this in a more professional way, and we have paid for the equipment to do what we're doing here. Kind of exciting that other churches are doing what we're doing and attracting people from a much wider community than they can reach by location. The next one, First UU San Diego. This is another example of, and it's something we could do too, congregation taking on, in cooperation with another group, to do something good. It's called Clean Start. It's, they work with the Uptown Community Service Center to provide shower facilities for about 2,000 homeless people and very low-income individuals. And the money goes for individually packaged soap, shampoo, things like that, that they give to these people. But they say it makes such a huge difference in their attitudes and ability to find jobs and all, to be clean. Something we don't even think about, you know. But how do homeless people get a nice, clean shower? And here's volunteers in this congregation. So the money isn't going to the church, it's going through the church. Very exciting. And you know, one is in Virginia, one Georgia, one California, but we've got one local too. IAC, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with IAC. They sponsored the Hands-on Housing program that we participated in. And this last grant goes for paying paint supplies, brushes, things like that. They say for at least 10 homes. So we've got some money being spent locally. Total this year, awards of $20,700. So pretty exciting. Several takeaways. First, the committee can only review grant proposals submitted. So if you are part of a group, volunteer, excited about that group, let them know that there's money in this church available for things like you see. Again, your money, Live Oak's money, is following your actions, and that's exciting. That's what we like to do. Let's see. Well, second, hope you appreciate the dedication of this committee to making sure that your money is well spent, that we don't hand out money. We have set criteria, sustainability, impact in the community, impact in people's lives. So we pick what we feel are the best ways to spend your money. It's exciting to be on this committee. Hopefully some of you will be inspired both to find proposals for us or join the committee.
Thanks, John. And I just also wanted to share, in addition to the grants, and because of the changes we made to the bylaws this year, we have the flexibility to respond to the work that we've been doing in social justice and in the community ministries and fund additional programs from our endowment. So the board recently passed basically a funding model changing from funding our social justice work and community services from our budget and from our pledges. We previously had that funded sort of through endowment, but we're creating a dedicated fund for that, and we're going to be dividing the money, the earnings that we get from the endowment between grants to UU organizations and pass-throughs, and grants to, or programs and things for our local community, for our social justice actions. And I'm really excited about how that's going to grow and change our community. So with that, let me invite Wayne Gregory, who's speaking on behalf of the Community Ministries team and Community Outreach Social Justice, for an update there.
It's been a really fun year this year to work with Community Ministries, and you know, it's been a bit of challenge and a great deal of fun. We were formerly known as Community Outreach and Social Justice, and it became fairly clear to us that we could probably be more effective and more organized if we separated out our strictly service-oriented programs and differentiated those from our more justice-oriented ministry. So we have these two now, Community Services, it's coordinated by Marjorie Taylor, and Social Justice Ministry, which is coordinated by me. And you can see there the different groups that are organized under those. If you want to know more about this, I'm going to try to go through this pretty quickly, but if you want to know more about these things, we have a Zoom meeting 2 to 3 this afternoon. You can find it on What's Happening. So everyone's invited to participate in this. So next slide. So we did the reorganization, and one of the real neat developments was a consolidation of a social justice ministry team. using a framework, which is an organizational tool and an evaluative tool given to us by the UU College of Social Justice. And this framework was approved by the executive committee, and we established part of the framework is the establishment of goals. And so we developed 8 goals, and 3 of those were, I'm going to have to move so I can see this, is to ensure that justice is a major component in Live Oak's mission, as it's rewritten, and to develop an innovative program to increase social justice activity and justice work by members of the church, and then to develop a yearly budget that supports the justice work. So we're in the process of doing that. Next slide. Some of the things we've done this year are, some of us were able to participate in the Poor People's Campaign March from Round Rock to Austin. That was really fun. We met a lot of really fun people, and it was really invigorating to be among this group of people. Next slide. Most recently, our environmental awareness group had a tree planting. I don't know how many of you were able to attend that, but this is a really neat process with families and children and people who care about the environment involved in it. Next slide. And then, of course, Fresh Food for All distributions. This is one of our longest-standing programs and our signature program. And if you don't know much about that one, you might tune in and get involved with it. You can always use some more volunteers. So in 2021, some of the highlights were that we held our 3rd workshop with Heather Vickery and Laura Randall from the UU College of Social Justice. They're helping us figure out ways to apply UU best practices in developing social justice and justice ministries, and how to develop those that are effective and can endure across time. We also presented 3 Life Spent Faith Development adult RE presentations on some of the programs that we're doing. You guys last year contributed over $12,500 for 12 organizations through Share the Plate, so thank you very much for that. Well deserved and needed. And also, you guys, through English as a second language, were able to serve 146 students from 28 different countries, 56% of whom have incomes under $25,000. So that was pretty impressive work you guys did last year. Through our Hill Country Community Ministries partnership, you all served more than 664 families and almost 1,500 individuals. These are, didn't have statistics for every month, but this is probably for 3/4 of the year. And so I was really happy to see those numbers. And then in terms of Green Bag that we're still currently doing, you guys have contributed 770 pounds of food and other items. So good work, good work. Let's see, next slide. So next year, these are goals that we've developed. We want to advocate for next year for the inclusion of justice in the Live Oak mission. We want to build multiple pathways for church members to enter into community ministries and become involved and be effectively engaged. We want to engage you all with 4 RE adult sessions on reproductive freedom, environmental awareness, voter rights, and anti-racism and anti-oppression. So we'll be doing those starting in January. We want to field teams next year for reproductive freedom, anti-racism, anti-oppression, environmental awareness, and voter rights. So we'll be in the process of offering opportunities for people to get involved and get engaged in these activities. We'll see what bubbles up, and we'll see what we're able to produce and sustain. So invite you an early invitation. We also plan this year to budget to support team partnerships with local organizations. And we want to be able to not only support the local organizations, but we want to increase the number of pathways between our church and those organizations. So there's a lot of elbow rubbing and shoulder rubbing, and we will interact more with these organizations in our community. That'll help us also effectively advocate for justice through them. And last but not least, we've begun, but we want to complete and submit to the executive committee the community ministry's purpose, policy, and procedure documents. This is an overriding document that helps guide, lay out, describe, and guide the work of community ministries. And so we invite help with this and review of this. Every person who comes brings a special secret sauce, and we welcome it all. Thank you very much.
So I might just, for the live stream, I might just repeat that. We've got some, oh yeah, yeah, we've got some flyers later if you want to help out as well. So I'm going to talk about the budget. So first off, I want to thank everybody for pledging what you can for the commitment to Live Oak UU. It's important for us to keep the lights on, moving forward. And, a budget is much more than the numbers in the church, but it's also kind of a statement of our values, of where we want to put our treasure, per se. And so what we've done, we've actually, as a board, we spent many hours going through and honing in on where we need to kind of align our budget based upon the projected pledges that we've had as well. We recognize that 2020 and 2021 have been very challenging years, as I said before. But I think Live Oak UU continues to flourish, and it's been really evident that within our pledges that people have still been very generous in terms of moving this donations forward as well. So, and I think in 2022, we need to actually add to sustain our congregation as well. We need to continue to grow. So that's going to be one of the missions moving forward as a church, is to actually continue to grow. We know it's been a little bit challenging, especially since there's been more things online, et cetera. Face-to-face is how you can kind of attract more members. And I think as we start to come in and be more, as I guess COVID starts to relax, hopefully with a little bit more face-to-face time, we can be able to recruit more members moving forward as well. So if you move to the next slide. So this is just kind of a big, I'm always a little scared when the lights go out like this. I'm a little shell-shocked, but it does help people see the screen a little bit better. What we're projecting moving forward in terms of, this is 2020, 2021, and 2022. What we're projecting is that our pledges are probably going to stay a little bit flat again because of current membership, et cetera. But what we saw in 2021 was a decrease in revenue from our rentals, and that was kind of understandable because less people could get into the building due to COVID. We are projecting that our rentals are going to probably go back up. We're not projecting the full amount to be a little bit more conservative, but we're kind of projecting that we'll probably get a little bit more money from the rentals from the previous year. If you move to the next slide. And I'm going to have CT, if you don't mind going through this a little bit on some of the details, but the budget is based upon the pledges at this time and projected rentals. Again, things should be opening up, so we hopefully will see an increase in our membership. And I think there's one other important thing in terms of revision, and then I'll let you get into it, is we've wanted to give a little bit increases in our payroll due to cost of living increases, but then also we've wanted to provide things like health care, so that our living up to our values of providing good benefits to our employees as well. So CT, you wanted to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I'm going to stay seated so I can lean on my spreadsheets. And just to put it, there was some good discussion after a sermon earlier this year about kind of living out our values, and in the U.S., most healthcare is provided by employers, and we are an employer, And so our DLFD role didn't have insurance provided by a spouse, and so we decided to pay the 80% premium for UUA insurance for that staff member, which I think is the first time in Live Oak history that we've done that. I think it's a big statement of kind of, even in challenging circumstances, we're trying to live out our values, we're trying to do the right thing. So this is kind of the level of granularity that we vote on as a congregation for the budget. You see kind of the income lines, and if you have specific questions, you should have come to the budget Q&A meeting. But we can answer any questions that you have here. But as a congregation, we kind of decided, and a board, we decided to, instead of passing a deficit budget, we're passing an expectation of growth. We actually had a really exciting pledge year, even in light of getting a late start and trying to do it all online. We still increased, 47 people increased their pledge. So thank you very much. Increased or new pledges. We actually had 9 new pledges this year. So even in the challenging circumstances, we're still growing. We're putting a line item in the budget, budgeting for growth, expecting to attract people and attract new pledges. So just and one other note, you can see the community outreach line went to kind of a blank this year. It's because we're funding that through the endowment proceeds, like we talked about a while ago. Also in sort of overall terms, we're kind of expecting 80%-ish kind of costs and rentals and things like that regarding to our building and building use and rentals based on 2020 budgets. So as you can see, the income 347 roughly matches the expenses total of 347. And so basically, it's a balanced budget, assuming we grow. Any questions about any of those things? Here, I'll repeat the question. Okay. Oh, the percents? Is that what you're saying? So so basically, this is of the total 347. You can see, because the budget is basically a statement of our priorities, you can see where we're putting our priorities. So 23% is basically to maintain our building, keep our building running and up, utilities, that sort of thing. 0.6% is congregational life, so this is like hospitality supplies and parties, things like that, fun things. 5% is our pledge to the UUA for denominational costs and membership in the UUA. Over 70% is payroll, expenses, related to people and our staff, all those kind of things. 0.7% is programming and worship. 0.4% is stewardship, and this year we're planning on having, religious education, so supplies and things like that's not the staff. And then 0.4% is stewardship, and this year is our 30th anniversary. And so we're planning on incorporating a 30th anniversary party in our stewardship campaign next year and kind of having that be the focus. So it's very exciting. I still have my 20th anniversary coffee mug, so we'll try to get some swag there. Does that answer your question, Bob?
See, there's a question on the chat.
Multitasking here. Could someone speak to the number of members gained, lost during the year? We don't finalize membership numbers for people. So in order to be a member, you sign the book either virtually or in person, commit to the church, both in kind of in spirit and monetarily with the pledge. And if you don't renew your pledge, then we kind of roll you off as a member after the first of the year. So we don't have numbers on exactly lost, because we haven't done all those calculations, but gained, at least I know that there was 9 new pledges this year over last year. I think there's roughly 15 to 20 that didn't renew. Cindy? We have a mic if someone wants to run it over, but I'll repeat it.
Hear you online.
Depends how long the question is.
Is it on?
Yep.
Understanding, of course, that Carrie and Rebecca are priceless, However, is our payroll cost going to go down for a few months while we don't have people in those positions? Is that taken into account, or?
I mean, we're not budgeting for that. We're hoping that there won't be any gap.
Okay.
We're already recruiting for and about to interview some director of music candidates, and we're already starting the process to hire a DLFD. So we're not budgeting for any gap, but that's the potential. And just to keep in mind, the budget is a guess. You know, it's based on our best information back in October and up to date. You know, what do we think is going to happen next year? So that's really what this is. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. You want to go to the next slide? Oh, okay. So just, we'll go ahead and vote. And has anyone not signed in that's in the room? Okay. Do +1. So we have 37 people in the room. We need 51 for quorum based on our current membership of 153. And we have a handful online. We'll also have, for any proxies or things like that, we have online forms as well. It's our first time doing a hybrid online and in person, so we're trying to figure this out. But if
Don't put that on chat.
What?
They'll put the form for people online on the chat as well.
I just think we should go ahead and vote in person on the budget before we move on.
Yeah, okay.
So if you're the presiding over this meeting. By the way, we didn't really introduce people, but if you want to introduce who's on stage and who's in the room. Mary?
I know at least one person hasn't been able to sign in, so I don't know if you have more people online than you think you have.
We're not accounting for people in the chat as quorum. They'll fill out, and anyone who watches this afterwards will fill out the online form like we've been doing, and we'll count those toward quorum.
Yeah, and actually, Eileen, who's in the back room, could you send out the form for people so they can go ahead and vote while we're talking as well? I guess
Well, we have one more item to talk about before people vote online, but
yeah.
we could just go ahead and cover both.
Yeah, actually, did you want to come over the capital fund and then we can just vote on both at the same time?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so just a quick reminder, our capital fund is what we specifically fundraised for that for big improvements to our building. We built our sign that's outside with it. We've replaced all of our air conditioning that was ailing and aging. And most recently, we voted to build an elevator and add on to our church. So, well done. If you go to the next slide. So recently completed over the last year since we last kind of talked about this. As you notice, there's new carpet in the fellowship hall, comfort rooms, and narthex. It's also carpet tiles that can be replaced individually. Our kitchen has been refreshed. We have new usable, user-friendly appliances in there. Our Wi-Fi network has been replaced. It was all end of life and failing. And our streaming services, as you can see, we have streaming services. We bought cameras, voted on that. It's going great. So we also signed an elevator contract we selected a vendor, signed a contract. Unfortunately, the cost came in higher than expected. I don't know if anyone's heard COVID is causing things to be more expensive. This is definitely no exception. The total with the elevator and install all in is closer to $360,000 versus we were estimating $250,000. Good news is we do have the money in the capital fund to pay for it, as well as some overage if needed. You can see the fund balance prior to that was $393,000. This is a hard decision, that the committee and the board made, but in kind of fulfilling the vision of the capital fund, we kind of voted to proceed and make our building accessible to everyone. Right now, if you notice, the parking lot's a little stained. That's from the geotechnical work that was going on to kind of do some boring to inspect the ground. And as we kind of sign final contracts, we're scheduling things. We don't have a final kind of timeline yet, but we'll let you know when we do. And special thanks to Wayne McCullough for all his work kind of coordinating things. Big thank you to our architect, Gary, who's the father of a member, Kristen, and his help has been just amazing throughout this whole thing. So we're getting an elevator, y'all. You go to the next slide. So one small project that we're voting on here, because remember the capital fund belongs to all of you, and before we do projects or before we take money out of the fund, we vote on it first as a congregation. So we replaced the stair treads in the back hallway because they were peeling and coming apart. People were tripping on them. And we moved quicker than waiting till a vote to replace those. So basically this $3,500 is to cover the cost of that as a reimbursement to large projects. So that's part of what we'll vote on here in a minute. Any questions about that project? Okay. So so we normally hold up fingers for proxies and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I'll repeat it.
Basically, what we're saying is the elevator is moving a lot higher. We've got other projects that we didn't talk about that we want to do in the future. Those who have given to the capital campaign did so about 3 years ago, and there are a lot of new members since then. Is there an appeal or an opportunity for people to contribute to the capital?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the question was, is there an opportunity to contribute to the capital fund if you kind of missed it the first time around or you want to continue? And absolutely, it's a dedicated fund that will keep, as long as we have money to as long as we have a building and as long as we have funds. So we'll probably, as we start building the elevators, there's a lot of excitement around that. We'll probably have another appeal, kind of talk about that, which will take volunteers and people to run that appeal and campaign. But it's one of the options. If you go to donate, you can choose the capital fund. And that is specifically set aside for these type of projects. Okay, any other questions on capital items? Is there any online? Okay. All right, ready to vote? Yeah. So what we talked about was in the room, we'll raise hands, we'll count, because we don't have a quorum in the room, so we can't really do just majority rule. But then if people aren't here, or if they're online, we'll post the link in the chat, or else you can go liveoku.org/meeting, and there's both a link to the web stream if you want to watch that, or the voting form is on there. Turn back over.
Okay, so I think that if you move to the next slide. Oh, I guess that's the Q&A. So the first question is whether or not you approve the budget as is. So for those that in the room, if you could vote, just raise your hand if you approve the budget. Oh yeah, if you're indicating a proxy, raise how many people you're voting for then too as well. So if you're voting for one, just raise one finger, and if you're voting for more, okay. Okay, And the second thing on the agenda is the capital fund budget. If you approve the capital fund budget as is, please raise your hand. Okay. Oh, go. Why don't you go ahead?
So we can't officially announce results, obviously, because we haven't tallied online votes, but the vote was in favor up here.
Yeah, so online, again, if you are on the online service, please send in your ballots online through the online form that's been sent out as a link. And, you know, we would appreciate kind of a timely response within the next couple days. And then we'll go ahead and count that up. And so we have to have a minimum of 51 votes for a quorum. So please get in your votes as well. So we'll take this time to see if there's any additional questions that we need to talk about. And let's pass around the mic so that people can hear them online as well. So.
I'm assuming since you didn't ask for any nay votes that it was unanimous in the room?
Yes, there was nobody that had a nay vote in the room, so.
Okay.
Do the proxies count towards quorum?
Yes, the proxies count towards quorum.
I would like to express my appreciation to the elected Board of Trustees and officers who voted for funds from the endowment to be used for the outreach efforts of the church. I very appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, I can wrap up the meeting. So thank you, everybody, for your attendance, and you get to enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon. So thank you.
We'll see you all in May.
Hi. Yeah.